When we took on this project with the Ninja 250, the purpose of this was just to prove the point that with a few little performance tweaks, you can have a lot of fun on a small capacity motorcycle. So this particular one is a Ninja 250. It's a 2008 model. It is a carbureted version. It doesn't have fuel injection and only puts out about 28 horsepower. So we applied some performance hacks to this particular bike and really had some fun with this on the ranges, on the street, riding with our buddies, you know, who ride the bigger 1000cc type motorcycles. So a couple of things that we did. First of all, we did nothing with the horsepower. And this is something that a lot of people kind of target first. They want to make the engine perform better, but they forget to address some of the key things that are more important than that in the initial phases of setting up a motorcycle. So, two things we did. First of all, we approached it from setting it up so that the attachment to the bike, was perfect. The second thing we did was we addressed the handling of the bike. So, from an attachment perspective, the first thing we did was we got rid of the handlebars. The handlebars that the Ninja 250 have, they're crap, to put it bluntly. They've got a real strange angle and they don't put you in a good position to actually ride that motorcycle. So we went to a cheap set of clip-ons, just a set we got through eBay, and in order to get those clip-ons to fit, we had to move the fork tubes up through the top triple clamp. So that had an effect on the handling of the bike, which I'll address when I get to the handling piece. So number one, we put it on a set of clip-ons, put them in a good position so that we were in a great position to steer this bike and felt very comfortable riding it. Okay, the second thing we did was we went to the tank grips. Now, this is really important that when you're riding a motorcycle, the more connection you can get to the bike through your legs and lower body, then the less pressure you're putting on the bars, the better your steering is going to be. You're going to have more control up here with the steering mechanism by being light on the bar when you're connected to the bike, motorcycle properly. Now, what we went for was the eazi-grip Pro version. I particularly like these because of the quality of the glue. I've had tremendous success with these things in extreme heats up here in North Queensland where I live. And also the quality of the connection to the bike itself. These things are nice and sticky and they perform really well. And we use these at the Californian Superbike School here in Australia, the eazi-grip version. Okay, the third thing we did was we put a rear set on it. So the intent of that was to move our feet in a better position, and it also gave us the option of having a bit of a play with upside down or race pattern with the gears. So on these particular bikes, there's bugger all horsepower. So what I found was there were times when I needed to change gears or change up or down or something like that while I'm trying to negotiate a corner. So I went to a race pattern format, and I'm pretty much used to that. Riding these 1000cc's on track all the time. So that was the attachment. The handling side of it we approached, in a pretty basic way. Number one, we went to the brakes. So the very first thing is we wanted this bike to be able to stop properly. Even though it's a light bike and the brakes on it are fairly adequate, we wanted it to stop much better than it was. And we did that by putting new brake pads on it, some ceramic carbon combination pads, and we replaced the rubber hose brake line with a stainless steel braided line, and this took a lot of sponginess out of the brakes themselves, and now we find that these brakes, even though they're single disc, actually work fairly good. The second thing we did for the handling was we put a decent set of tyres on it. I'm a big Metzler fan, so I went for the Metzler Sport Tech. I think this is the street version that we put on here with a slightly wider back one, and I love them. They're perfect for this type of motorcycle. The fourth thing we had to consider was the rake of the bike. Now, as I said, when we put the clip-ons on, we had to move the fork legs up through the top triple clamp in order to get enough fork leg there, or upper fork leg, to put the triple clamp on. And what that had done by raising it, had lowered the front end and it gave it a much steeper rake. So what we went for was a dog bone, what's called a dog bone link, which is attached on the back end, and we lowered the back end by 12 millimeters. And that lowering and the adjustment and the movement at the front end, we kind of tweaked it a little bit and got the rake perfect. So the rake is not necessarily all the way up. We found that about 5 mil down from the top of the triple clamp, and it's perfect. Really handles well without getting too much of a wobble. The final thing we did was we replaced the exhaust. Now, a lot of people think that you put the exhaust on to give it more horsepower. That's not why we put the exhaust on this bike, right? We definitely would like it to breathe better, and I always like the sound of a good exhaust. The reason we went for this particular version, the SC Project took a ton of weight out of the bike. So we've got the sprung weight, you know, and I don't know if you've seen the standard mufflers on these things. They're terrible, right? Big heavy steel things. We probably save 4 or 5 kilos just by putting on a titanium SC Project exhaust. So that's it, like 7 major performance hacks that we did to this bike, and it's made it, you know, really a fun thing to ride on the ranges. And they were these clip-ons, tank grips, rear sets, and then we went down to the handling side of it. We fixed the brakes up with brake pads and brake lines. We put some tyres on it. We put some Messel Sport Tech tyres. We adjusted the rake, made sure that everything was at the right height, and the last thing was we put a super lightweight titanium exhaust. So there's some performance hacks for a Ninja 250 or any small bike. Go and give it a try.